played about 50 hours of Marathon over the past week using a combination of devices that make up my hybrid gaming setup, which includes my ROG XBOX Ally X paired with my ROG Flow X13 gaming laptop, which I use when playing on an external monitor. For the purpose of this video though, all gameplay that we captured and presented here has been filmed entirely on the ROG XBOX Ally X in handheld mode, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Before I provide my own commentary on the game, I want to make it very clear that Marathon is already a very well regarded game in the eyes of critics, as well as several well-known media outlets. Marathon is listed as very positive on Steam with more than 26,700 reviews at the time of writing, followed by IGN, who gave the game a 9 out of 10, as well as Metacritic, who presented Marathon an impressive yet more modest score of 82%. In the weeks since launch, and despite Marathon's early critical success, the game has struggled to maintain a stable player count, starting off with an impressive 88,337 players clocking in during March, which was shortly followed by a rapid 30% decline over the last 30 days. Though it's not all doom and gloom for Bungie, as approximately 25,000 players have clocked in to play Marathon each day over the past week alone, signaling that there is in fact a strong, albeit small, foundational community helping to keep this game alive. I also think that it's important to note that because of Marathon's strong critical reception, the game's dwindling monthly player count does not provide a reliable or accurate indication for just how good this game is as a hardcore extraction shooter. That being said, the rapid decline in Marathon's player base is not a good thing by any measure. As we all know, a sustainable and thriving community of players is needed to support the longevity of any game, especially those with massive budgets, and that is especially apparent in today's market where the cost of game design and production are so absurdly high. In the lead up to Marathon's official launch, gamers didn't really know what to expect given the very unfortunate yet warranted controversy when it came to criticism regarding ill practices around the game's early art design, followed by a largely unpolished and disappointing initial showcase. I'm pleased to say that most of these major issues were in fact resolved by the time of Marathon's public launch. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, when I first booted up Marathon, I really struggled to vibe with it, just based on how unbearably punishing and unforgiving the gameplay loop can be, especially if you're not extremely careful literally all of the time. And I mean it when I say this game is downright brutal. Though I think it's also worth mentioning that I am not at all an experienced player in the realm of first-person shooters, let alone extraction shooters. I've put maybe 10 hours into Battlefield 6 since launch and not many other shooters at all in recent years. So please bear that in mind when listening to my review, because you may feel vastly different about this game depending on your own preferences and experience. Now, I don't typically play a lot of these live service games generally, and that's largely due to the fact that I find it incredibly annoying when games insist on shoving a seemingly never-ending supply of microtransactions down my throat, usually in the form of in-game cosmetics or battle passes. While Marathon does feature a rewards pass as well as an in-game store, it's not being shoved in your face in the same way that most live service games do. In fact, it's relatively subtle on the title screen, and I didn't even realize it was there until after I had played a few rounds before actively seeking it out. I can't help but commend Bungie's approach here. In a world where predatory in-game consumerism is running rampant, I'm glad to have finally found a live service title that I not only enjoy, and also isn't just making me feel like it's trying to extract more and more money from me each time I log in for a session. Marathon's core gameplay is exactly what you would expect from a Bungie title, though it introduces a range of new elements into the mix that gives the game its own distinct feeling. With the introduction of player versus environment, gamers will need to pay close attention to their surroundings. The arena is filled with environmental dangers that will drain 3/4 of your health within seconds when exposed. You'll come across poisonous plants and animals hidden among the forestry, as well as in and around various buildings. Most of the time, though, they're waiting for you to sprint across a coverless field or carelessly make your way around a blind corner. There are also a wide variety of AI bot enemies that have been strategically placed around the map, enforcing players to move with caution and to be mindful of their surroundings when they are traversing various buildings. And don't be fooled by the AI bots. While they might seem rather oblivious from a distance, they are geared to punish you if you do not pay them the respect that they deserve. And it's not just the environment and AI bots that you will need to look out for. You will need to observe your surroundings for other runners who are, in the same way as your own team, looking to gather loot, collect new weapons, and complete various quest lines. Like the environment, sound also plays a critical role within Marathon's core gameplay loop, as elements such as loud footsteps and unnecessary shooting will allow nearby players to quickly locate you, enabling their team to band together and eliminate you with ease. Whilst loot in the form of gear is in abundance throughout the arena, heals and shield charges are exceptionally rare to come by. Preserving your health is of utmost importance in Marathon, as well as doing your best to avoid any unnecessary shootouts, and instead employ stealth tactics to traverse through areas unnoticed while you farm for gear and weapons before making your way to one of the 3 designated exfil sites. And even then, you aren't out of danger. Limited exfil sites throughout the arena make exiting each run with all of your loot all the more difficult, because there are other teams out there trying to do the exact same thing that you are trying to do. And more often than not, this will result in one final battle around the exfil site between yourself, your companions, and a rival team. And believe me when I say this, there is nothing more frustrating in Marathon than getting eliminated and robbed of all of your loot at an exfil site after nearly 20 minutes of intense survival warfare. Weapons in Marathon vary greatly, from your casual run-of-the-mill sidearms such as pistols and SMGs to the more beefy firearms such as LMGs, assault rifles, and sniper rifles. These weapons can of course be kitted out with various equipment throughout the game, such as optical attachments to improve your sight with precision aiming. Although looting is the centerpiece of this game, I definitely feel that Bungie could have added more here. Much of the loot that you receive in the maps that are currently available can become quite repetitive. Not the weapons so much, but more so the tactical gear that is used to enhance your weapons. A lot of the time you'll find yourself in a situation where the weapon attachments you have found do not match the weapons you currently have equipped. Obviously, the idea is to exfil the gear and store it in your armory to be used in a later run. However, this can be exceptionally difficult and frustrating when just one elimination will cause you to instantly lose all of the weapons and loot you have spent the last 20 minutes trying to salvage. Looking at the positives, and despite its early flaws, Marathon excels and ultimately succeeds in its effort to keep the stakes extremely high throughout the entirety of each run. And yes, this can definitely hurt the experience for casual gamers who are just looking for a more entry-level shooter with a much smaller skill gap, but as a hardcore extraction shooter, Bungie have really nailed the gameplay, as well as the atmospheric feel experienced within the world of Tau Ceti. Though it's definitely debatable whether a $200 million plus budget warrants the creation of a game that appeals to a rather niche audience. It's also worth commending Bungie for their sleek design of the Marathon UI. The menu tabs have this really cool cyberpunk and robotic feel to them, and each one is relatively easy to navigate. The loadout screen is really simple to use, allowing you to browse your armory for equipment stored after each successful exfil, and add collected weapons and gear of your choice to your loadout. And look, I'm just going to go out on a whim and say it, Marathon is an excellent extraction shooter, and its brutality and downright punishing yet explorative gameplay loop is exactly what makes it an utterly addictive shooter experience. Perhaps very frustrating at times, but highly addictive nonetheless. And despite the clear frustrations that a large amount of casual gamers are experiencing in the early days since launch, Marathon keeps me coming back for beatdowns over and over again. Let's take a look at the performance side of things. As I mentioned earlier, I played almost the entirety of my time with Marathon on my ROG XBOX Ally X. Now, to be clear, I'm someone who comes from a console background, so I like to keep any form of tinkering to an absolute minimum where possible. On most games that I boot up on my Ally, I'll just dive straight in using default settings, which are normally tuned to the hardware you are using anyway. When I first booted up Marathon, I was pleasantly surprised to see firsthand how stable this game runs on my Ally. I made some very basic adjustments on armory crates, such as setting the max FPS to 60 and resolution to 1080p, though outside of that, I didn't feel the need to tinker any further at all. I was definitely getting more frame drops from time to time. However, that was mostly confined to outdoor areas where the game might fluctuate between roughly 40 and 60 FPS on occasion, though definitely leaning more towards that 60 FPS mark. Indoor areas are running flawlessly though, holding a stable 60 FPS almost all of the time. You could probably jack it up to 90 FPS indoors, but I prefer to just lock it to 60 on most games and call it a day. So here's the big question. Do I think that Marathon is a worthy look for other Ally users out there? I definitely think that Marathon is a worthy Bungie title, and it truly is the embodiment of what a hardcore extraction shooter should strive to achieve. If you're a fan of the genre, or you have a lot of experience in other shooters such as Arc Raiders or Battlefield 6, but you're looking for more of a challenge with higher stakes, then I think you'll fit right in with Marathon. So if you want immersive, atmospheric, and stealth exploration mixed with high-octane bursts of gunplay that will almost certainly result in you giving back all of your hard-earned weapons and loot each and every time, then Marathon might just be the game for you. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and dinging that notification bell to help support the channel as we get it up and running. Until next time.